Tasmania. So, Madam Speaker, I rise to speak about this historic federal budget. It's the most important federal budget in Australia in my lifetime and perhaps in many generations. The Treasurer said, the Federal Treasurer, that is the Honourable Josh Frydenberg, said on the night that so many Australians are doing it tough at the moment, and sadly through no fault of their own. Coronavirus has upended the lives of many of our people. Life is very different to how it looked this time last year and when the last federal budget was handed down. It's a crisis of significant scale, reach and impact and touches the lives of every person in Australia and to that end every person in Tasmania. Now, the federal budget has significant benefits for Tasmania as we look to rebuild and recover from the coronavirus pandemic, both in terms of the health crisis and also the economic recession that it's caused. And today I'll speak about key areas including jobs and tax, health, infrastructure, agriculture and energy, and education and training, Madam Speaker. Now, on this first matter of jobs and tax, this budget delivered significant tax cuts right across the board for Tasmanians of all walks of life. And it's been really heartening to see a government that knows that it is the people who make the money who understand best how to spend it for their families and for themselves. It's about the autonomy of the individual and their families to decide how best that they want to spend their hard-earned money, because they earned it, Madam Speaker. They did the work, they got up early, they did the long shift, they're pulling the overtime. Those are the people who are, caring for our sick and our elderly. Those are the people who are building our houses, our roads and our bridges, who are educating the next generation. Those are the people who understand how best to spend their money, Madam Speaker. It's not government. Government doesn't get the lives of each individual person in the way that they do, and that's why we believe it's so important to see tax cuts go into the hands of everyday Tasmanians. And there's tax cuts for 165,000 Tasmanians and their families. And the average Tasmanian full-time worker will receive about $1,080 back in their pockets every year. That is an extraordinary lift to any family budget, Madam Speaker, and those who've done it tough in their life and who've done the hard work and have raised kids know what that sort of impact will make on their family budget at the end of the year. We're talking a new washing machine, making car registration that much easier to afford. We're talking private health insurance and to pay the school fees. Those are the kind of things that can make such a monumental difference to the lives of everyday Tasmanians, the lives of everyday Australians. To have the independence and the ability to spend your own money that you earn, that you put on your table, and that you can look your kids in the eye and say that next year is going to be better than this year because we earned it. And they're people who are tradies, they're paramedics, they're people who are getting the job done right around our state. And, Madam Speaker, those people deserve every tax cut that they get, as far as I'm concerned, because they earned it. The budget also has enabled the Tasmanian Freight Equalisation Scheme to continue. And Madam Speaker, this scheme has been absolutely a wonderful thing, particularly for my electorate of Braddon. It was extended to exports in 2014, and the benefits that made right across our economy in the northwest coast has been extraordinary. We are fundamentally linked across Bass Strait, and for the Tasmanian Freight Equalisation Scheme to be extended to exports so that people like Harvest Moon, who are producing some of the best onions and carrots in the world, can actually get that scheme when it needs to be transshipped through Melbourne and overseas, that's made a fundamental difference to the way that they do business and the way that they can serve markets both here but also around the world. It's about finding a place, a home for your product and a good price. And one of the things about the Tasmanian Freight Equalisation Scheme is that it supports blue-collar jobs right across our economy, whether those people are farmers who are working in our vegetable processing facilities in Forth, whether they're people who are working in our forestry industry, we're talking people like Norske Skog, and right across our economy, because Tasmania fundamentally is a place that makes things, and we get the job done, we put food on the table by meeting the needs of people right around the world. So to extend the Tasmanian Freight Equalisation Scheme and to continue it locked in policy for exports, which is something that this Liberal government has achieved for Tasmania, I have to say is an absolutely fantastic thing, and it's shored up the viability of so many of our businesses that are producing in the primary sector and the secondary manufacturing sector, Madam Speaker, which will surely and absolutely have a huge impact in terms of the job security and jobs prospects for young Tasmanians as well as old. And while I move to talking about the jobs of young Tasmanians, Madam Speaker, I want to talk about the JobMaker hiring credit, which will support young Tasmanians to come into work, to get a job. It's about supporting those people to get that little bit of a lift up, so that you can get the experience. Because, Madam Speaker, it wasn't all that long ago for me, where it was tough to get your first job because you didn't have the experience that people were asking for, and to be able to say that, look, I don't have the experience, but I'm willing to work my guts out. I'm willing to go the extra mile, to do what it takes. I'm keen to learn. That little bit of incentive that's come through the JobMaker hiring credit will make all the difference in the world for those kids. For those people who are 35 and under, my age bracket, this is about you. This is about you being able to step up into the workforce, to be able to save up. Once upon a time it might have been for an overseas holiday, but, Madam Speaker, to be able to save up for a deposit for a house, to be able to support a family, to be able to pay for that next TAFE course, or to think about going to university, to buy your first car. Those are the kind of extraordinary, life-changing opportunities that everyday Tasmanians can have when they are able to get a job, when they are able to do the hours, and when we're able to support those people through the JobMaker hiring credit. And that's been one of the fantastic things to come out of this federal budget in a time of pandemic, to know that our young people are supported, that there's a federal government that's going to back in their future, that's going to support them into their first job, that's going to make life just that little bit easier for them when they rock up to that job interview and say, geez, I don't have experience, but I'm willing to learn, I'm willing to work flat out. Madam Speaker, it's also putting more money in the pockets of people who are on a fixed income. We're talking 72,000 age pensioners in Tasmania who are going to receive two $250 bonuses this year to go with the $750 bonuses that they received last year. Because we know that for a lot of those people, there's extraordinary calls on their income still. There are people who are supporting grandchildren, who need that extra cash, who are doing it tough. And to be able to say to them, look, there's more money, the cheque's in the mail, and we're backing you, we're supporting you, that just takes the pressure off. It makes life just that little bit easier. And it also stimulates our small business, because we know that these people are keen to spend the money and keen to put it back in the economy, which is fantastic for small businesses, people in retail, in hospitality, people in the main street of Devonport, people in the main street of Burnie, who, for some of them, have had the worst year that they've ever had. Some are doing okay, but it's been incredibly difficult for a lot of people as they've had to close their doors. We know in the northwest particularly the devastation that was caused by the lockdown when there was the outbreak in northwest Tasmania, and people were so grateful that we've been able to get on top of that we've been able to beat the virus once it got out into our community. But hard decisions were made, and a lot of that fell onto our retailers, onto our hospitality people, and to be able to put a little bit more money back in their pockets is going to make a massive difference, as well as our pensioners. And while we're at it, 27,000 people who are on disability support pensions, Madam Speaker, who are in a similar boat. We know you're doing it tough, but we want to support you and we want to get you through. The instant asset write-off, which has been one of the policy innovations of the federal Liberal government that has changed the game for a whole lot of small tradies, for a whole lot of small businesses who are able to invest in the kind of equipment that will make their guys more productive, the people who are working in hospitality who will be able to buy the new oven, buy the new coffee machine, those little investments that can make life just that little bit easier. And that's what this budget's about. But the instant asset write-off has now been expanded, so it's for businesses that are growing as well. Our medium-sized businesses, who are one of the big drivers of job creation in Australia, in Tasmania, and we know that the instant asset write-off will basically cover almost every business in Tasmania. It's up to 99% of Tasmanian businesses. And that's a fantastic thing, Madam Speaker, because it means that they can go out, they can invest, they can write it off against their tax, and they can continue to grow, employ people, and give them higher wages, which is, at the end of the day, what we want to see, particularly in a global pandemic. Now, Madam Speaker, I want to move on to health as well. Health has been one of the absolutely critical things that this government at a federal level and this government in Tasmania have been investing in. We've seen an absolutely unprecedented investment into health because we know that we're in the middle of a global pandemic. But that's what this is all about. It's being able to make sure that we've got enough nurses on the ground. It's about making sure that we've got enough paramedics to get people to hospital safely. And so we've put in 1,500 new health jobs since 2014 in the health system in Tasmania. That's 750 nurses versus sacking a nurse a day for 9 months, which is what our opposition did. It's 230 new doctors, Madam Speaker. And this year alone, we put $287 million into the health system. That is an absolute record. It's never been achieved before in Tasmania. And Madam Speaker, I have to say that's $72 million of new money, of more of an increased spend, and $48.1 million of that was coronavirus support as well. And we know that can make such a huge difference because if we're able to respond in a timely manner, that we can put the coronavirus pandemic, we can get on top of it, as we did in northwest Tasmania. We know what happens when we support our nurses, our paramedics, our doctors to do the fantastic work that they do. Our people in aged care who have been on the front line of this pandemic right around the country, those people are being supported by wonderful measures, including wage support for direct aged care workers, the people who, right in the middle of the pandemic, particularly when things were kicking off in Melbourne, it was hard to say to people, particularly who were over 50, look, can you come to work today? We need your support. But just that little bit of extra financial incentive to say to people, look, we value you. We know that you'd come in and do this every day, that you put yourself on the front line, you put yourself in harm's way. But we just want to give that extra little bit of financial incentive so that you can step up. Because the work that you do is saving lives, it's changing lives, and it's making our world a better place. So anything that we can do to support our hard-working aged care workers, our nurses in our hospitals, our doctors who are caring for people in their GP practices, then that's a wonderful thing, Madam Speaker, and that's what this federal budget delivers. Health, in particular, is a sector that a lot of women work in. It's predominantly a female-based industry at the moment, and to be able to support all those new jobs through this budget and to support the people that they care for is an absolutely fantastic thing for Tasmania and for Australia. Now, Madam Speaker, I want to turn to infrastructure, and this has been perhaps the big headline of this budget because it's about stimulating our economy, it's about keeping tradies in jobs, it's about supporting their families, and it's about busting congestion on our roads, on our bridges, and making sure that we can get the energy that our economy, particularly here in Tasmania, which is an energy superpower in the making, will have an enormous benefit for everyday Tasmanians, for people working in our manufacturing industries, and for young people looking to get a job. So we're part of our $3.1 billion construction blitz in Tasmania, the biggest on record, that supports 15,000 jobs for tradies and the people that work in the construction sector. That's absolutely massive, Madam Speaker. And we know that when things are growing in the construction sector, they're able to take on apprentices. When there's that pipeline of work stretching out ahead of you, you can say, yeah, I can take on the young bloke at the footy club for the next 4 years because I know that work's coming. I know the work's there, and we can train him up. We can get him to step up, and he'll be able to, hopefully one day take on the business as well. That's the kind of life-changing impact that investing in infrastructure can make. It's about futures for our young people as well as stimulating our economy right now. So there's $400 million of roads and bridges in various packages in Tasmania. We're talking right across the state in our critical infrastructure. We're talking things like $59 million for the Midland Highway, which I know many members in the northwest and the north spend a heck of a lot of time on in this place, and it's wonderful to see that the old goat track is really starting to shine now. We're talking massive safety upgrades that will make sure that people can get home safe, they can get to work safe, that our truckies are not going to be putting people's lives at risk because the roads aren't good enough. Those kind of things, Madam Speaker, make an enormous difference for the people that do the hard work, that are working the 12, 14-hour shifts on our roads, because every little bit of safety upgrades count, and it's part of a $500 million upgrade into the Midland Highway. It's truly a staggering thing to see the amount of work that's being done, the amount of graders, bulldozers, and people getting out there in the high vis and making a dollar. It's absolutely fantastic to see. We're talking $12 million to upgrade freight bridges right around Tasmania. I know in my electorate of Braddon particularly we've seen a lot of investment in our bridges, particularly with the construction of our major wind farms that have been built down the west coast. The scale of the build that is getting done, the energy projects that are going to power Tasmania for generations to come require a heck of a lot of upgrades and to quite small bridges in tiny little towns. So to be able to put that money into the west coast among the people that I used to work with, that I used to work for, is just a brilliant thing to see. We're talking $130 million as well for the Tasman Bridge here in Hobart, which sees 72,000 people travel across that bridge every day. There's an absolutely extraordinary number in a state like Tasmania. And to be able to do that in a safe manner, to be able to get home and get to work in a way that doesn't take forever and a day, but that you can do it safely, that you can do it in the rain, that you can do it in the dark, that you can look after the people at home, know that you'll get home safe, Madam Speaker, is a brilliant thing, and to be able to increase the amenity on that bridge as well, because part of the upgrades will actually help the foot traffic and the cyclists who use that bridge. I mean, I know it's not really my speed as someone who's got quite a significant fear of heights, but if you want to jump on that thing, good luck to you, and we'll make sure we're supporting that exercise to be done safely as well. And $30 million, Madam Speaker, in a very close to my heart area. The Bass Highway between Deloraine and Devonport. We know that significant investment needs to be made in that road because there's a heck of a lot of produce that goes on it. It's one of the most productive areas of our state. We're talking agriculture, we're talking manufacturing, we're talking forestry. To be able to get our product to port and onto market, and to be able to upgrade those roads in a way that makes the drive a bit more comfortable for our truckies, safer for the people who are using that road, then that's what we want to see. And that's why we're investing in that infrastructure, but why it's so fantastic to see it supported by the federal government as well. And that's part of a major upgrade that's happening right across the Bass Highway along that corridor. I was delighted to see work done in my old hometown of Boat Harbour has commenced, and congratulations to the Minister on making that happen and seeing that roll out right across the northwest coast, right out to Marrawar. It's an extraordinarily productive part of our economy, and to be able to recognise it with a road that's fit for purpose is a truly generational upgrade and taking the northwest to the next level. And the $187 million duplication of the Midway Point and Sorell corridors, it's about backing families who want to come into Hobart but also want to be able to live out in that area, because it's a fantastic place. It's got beautiful amenity, and to support people to live where they want to live. People who want to live out in a growing suburb like Sorell, but then also still come into town if they want to send their kids in as well. If we can upgrade that infrastructure, that just takes the pressure off families just that little bit. If it's quicker to get home, if it's safer to get home, then that makes life a heck of a lot easier for young families who are growing. They've got a lot of pressures on their time, and it's brilliant to see. Madam Speaker, we've also seen significant upgrades in terms of primary industries, water and energy. In this budget, the minister is very fond of saying water is liquid gold, and Madam Speaker, agriculture in Australia and in Tasmania is simply a story of just add water. We know the transformative effect of water on the landscape in Tasmania, particularly around the Midlands and in the south here, where it doesn't rain quite as much as the beautiful paradise that is the northwest coast. So to be able to see a bit of green coming down that upgraded Midland Highway is a beautiful thing, because we know that it benefits all Tasmanians as we grow, as we're able to feed the country, feed the world. I hear my colleague from Franklin interjecting. I won't go into what I said to him about how good the northwest coast is the other day. But Madam Speaker, we've got a plan to grow our agricultural farm gate to $10 billion a year by 2050, and that requires enormous investment to make it happen, to make our farmers more productive, to make the people who labour on that land work better, and to be able to put in high value crops, to have that surety that comes with water, and knowing that you can actually grow on land that has potential. Madam Speaker, it's called the Pipeline to Prosperity, and it's for a very good reason. The federal budget will see $328.4 million to support agricultural exports, and that will significantly benefit Tasmania. We're also talking innovative and world-leading projects like the Marinus Link, which has been mentioned many times in this place before, and I'll speak briefly about it in the case of the federal budget of $250 million, one of three critical national transmission projects. We want to make Australia's electricity grid work better, and the battery of the nation will go a long way to doing that. But we also want to make sure that Tasmanians have jobs for the future. These are great paying jobs, they're blue-collar jobs, and they're a way for people to really set themselves up and set their families up with a good full-time job. It's highly technical, highly skilled, and run really for the future. There's even $70 million for the development of hydrogen at Bell Bay. Madam Speaker, we know that this is one of the blue sky areas for Tasmania's economy and Tasmania's future. Because if we can tap into the growing market for hydrogen around the world in countries that are manufacturing things in places like Japan, and if we're able to use that as well in Tasmania, and to really step up our economy into this new growth sector, then we're going to see an enormous amount of benefits for local manufacturers, for our energy producers, and for the entire state, because Tasmania is a state that's built on energy production and built on manufacturing. So hydrogen just makes sense. That's why we want to see it in Bell Bay, and why I want to see it as well, Madam Speaker, in my electorate, particularly in Burnie, which I believe has enormous potential to be one of the great hydrogen hubs of not just Tasmania and Australia, but of the world, Madam Speaker. And this is one of the things about this budget, is that while it's about tackling the coronavirus pandemic and the devastating effects that's had on a lot of people, it's also about building for the future. It's about building back better. It's about growing our state and providing jobs for our young people. And Madam Speaker, I just want to finish finally on the benefits of this budget for Tasmania in terms of education. And we know that education is a path to a better life. Whether you're doing a trade, whether you're doing a Cert 3, or whether you're doing a university degree, it can take you all around the world. It can help you save for a house, set up for your family, and have a comfortable life. Those people who've been able to do vocational education will attest to it, and those people who've done higher education than that know it as well, and I know many in this place who are very passionate about it. We'll see things like the Job Trainer program, which will deliver up to 7,000 additional free or low-cost training places at a critical time for Tasmania, and a critical time for Tasmania's young people. Those kind of things about putting people in a place where they can learn, where they can grow, when they can take on the jobs of the future. That really is a visionary thing. And to see that being delivered in critical areas where we know the economy is going to be growing in Tasmania. We're talking places like building and construction, where I used to work, tourism and hospitality, health, aged care and disability, aquaculture, and a big shout out to the guys down in Strawn. I'm probably enjoying the wonderful weather this time of year. Agriculture and advanced manufacturing. Madam Speaker, they're all absolute standouts of the northwest economy, but of the economy of Tasmania more generally. And to be able to guide young people into careers in those critical areas of growth and need, 7,000 new young people who will be able to take on those jobs. Surely it means that Tasmania's future is in good hands. Madam Speaker, it is absolutely vital as well that we support our apprentices and our trainees. The federal government delivers 100,000 new apprentices and traineeships. And Madam Speaker, perhaps I might close in saying that doing an apprenticeship was the best thing I ever did, except for getting engaged to my fiancée, of course. And it's certainly a heck of a lot nicer to be engaged to Margot. But behind that, being able to do an apprenticeship really set me up for life. It opened a lot of doors. It taught me values. It taught me hard work, and it made me be able to take on the challenges that come with life, whether that is a global pandemic, whether that is hopefully starting a family. So I'm just so glad and delighted to see the support there for Tasmanian apprentices and our trainees, because you won't regret it. 2-3 years in, you'll probably hate it, but once you're done, it'll really set you up for life. So, Madam Speaker, the federal budget has enormous benefits for Tasmanians right across the board, whether it's in terms of jobs and taxes and the money that's going back into people's pockets at a very, very difficult time, whether it's the healthcare that people need at a time when a virus is ravaging places right across the world, the infrastructure so that people can get to work in good time and get home safely, the agriculture, the energy and the water that will set Tasmania up for generations to come, and the education which is providing a pathway for our young people's future. Madam Speaker, I commend the Treasurer and the federal Liberal government for what has been an extraordinary budget for extraordinary times, and I'm looking forward to our Premier and Treasurer delivering a Tasmanian state budget which can equal or perhaps even better it. Thank you.